Hey guys, it's Ijeoma Kola here. First of all, sorry for my little voice. Jonathan got me sick. He loves me so much that he got me sick. But I'm kind of getting over it. And I'm getting ready to go do a photo shoot quickly before going to go do some schoolwork. And last night I asked on Instagram, if you're not following me on Instagram, make sure that you go and do that. So last night I asked my Instagram followers kind of what they wanted me to talk about in a video while I get ready. So I wanted an update about my PhD, like PhD update, where I am in the program, how it's going, what I'm doing right now. So that's what I'm gonna be talking about today. So if it's your first time here, welcome. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button. I am doing my makeup and my hair as I talk, but it's not a makeup tutorial. It's not like a beat. So feel free to go do something else while just listening to me and not necessarily watching what I'm doing. But if you are interested in the products that I use, I'll put them in the description box. But again, this is not a makeup tutorial. This is not really a get ready with me. This is, I want to tell y'all about how my PhD is going, but I also need to get ready at the same time. So kill two birds with one stone. Let's get to work. Oh, where do I even start? For those of you guys who don't know, I am in my 7th year of a PhD program. That sounds absurd to say out loud, but that is the truth. I'm in year 7 of a PhD program at Columbia's Mailman School of Public Health. I'm in the department Socio-Medical Sciences. My dissertation is on the rise of asthma in African Americans, looking at the discourse around racial susceptibility to asthma and how that's changed over the 20th century. Where I am now in my program, I think I've defended my proposal. I did that last summer. I've written one chapter. I've done most of the research, and I am on track. I'm actually a little bit behind, but hopefully trying to graduate this May. I mean that it took me 7 years to finish my PhD. And the question that I get a lot about, why is it taking you so long to do this PhD is one, different programs and different fields have like different standard times or expected times that it takes to finish. History tends to be one of the longer PhD programs. Essentially, it boils down to whether or not you have to collect your own data. If you're working in a lab or if you're working with an existing data set, like you don't have to spend 2 years doing research or like collecting data, so you can tend to finish a little bit faster, whereas for historians or anthropologists, like we have to collect the data ourselves, so it just takes a bit longer. So while I thought that I would be finished by now, I'm not like behind per se. Like everyone who started with me, we're all kind of like still here and that's like for different reasons. But another thing that people don't really think about, and I surely was very unaware of before I started, was the fact that it costs money. And I think that we are under the impression that, like PhDs are fully funded, and which they are sometimes, but oftentimes your funding only lasts you like 5 years. And if you don't finish in those 5 years, you have to figure out how to pay the rest of your way. Even if you're not taking classes, like my tuition and fees is almost $5,000 a semester. So one of the reasons why it's taken me so long is because I have chosen to work outside of my PhD. And so that's what I do, like as an influencer. I really stumbled into like the blogging and influencing world, but the second that I realized that it could be a job, it could be an income source, a source of revenue, I started to take it more seriously. So if you're like looking at me and you're like, oh my gosh, like how are you balancing school and blogging? And you're like doing it all, like girl, it's not being balanced. Like there's definitely trade-offs, and I will definitely say, had I not been doing this blogging and influencing thing, then I would have been done with my PhD by now, like 100% done. I've definitely spent a lot of time, not necessarily wasting, but I could have been a lot more efficient with my time, and having a blog takes away time for me being able to do my schoolwork, which is kind of counterintuitive. So on the one hand, I need to kind of like focus on my schoolwork so I can be done like in the near future. On the other hand, I need money to pay for school, and so I have to work to get that money. It doesn't really make sense. The world of academia and higher education does not really make sense whatsoever, but that's kind of like the game that we're playing, Every day you have to ask yourself, like, do I want to get further on my dissertation, or do I want to work so that I can have a place to live and like food to eat? So that's kind of how I kind of ended up here. But as I like to tell myself now, come hell or high water, I am graduating. I am walking across that stage in May. It is my ultimate goal to have defended my dissertation by then, but worst comes to worst, I'll just have like deposited it and haven't yet defended it. But yeah, it's time to go. It is time to go. It is now kind of like in my way. and preventing me from doing other things that I want to do, which I can talk about in a later video. So I'm working on the third chapter of my dissertation, but it's the second one I'm writing, but it's like number 3 in the order. And that's just because I had most recently done research on that chapter, so I kind of wanted to write it while it was still fresh in my head. And this chapter kind of looks at the emergence of asthma in African Americans in 3 different hospital-like settings in the 20th century, right during the civil rights movement, like 1950s, 1960s. At the same time, doctors who had previously thought that Black people couldn't have asthma all of a sudden are like seeing examples of Black people with asthma. And there are kind of like a lot of reasons for this, which is what I talk about in my dissertation. But I think what I found most interesting is there's been a little bit of overlap between my like former hair blogger world and my PhD research, in that the founder of Afro Sheen, which if you don't know who Afro Sheen is, you need to kind of go into Black history. But George Johnson, the founder of Afro Sheen, sat on the board of the National Asthma Center, which was both a research hospital and a patient care center that focused on asthma in children. It was one of the early places that admitted both Black and white patients, and because they were children with asthma. And there's a kind of interesting story about how Black kids kind of end up at the National Asthma Center like in the first place, because it wasn't always like in 1930 there weren't like Black kids, but like by 1960 they're Black kids, and like there's like an interesting story behind it. At least I think it's interesting. I got carried away. So George Johnson, who was huge Black entrepreneur, like super successful, so he ends up sitting on the National Advisory Board for the National Asthma Center. And when I saw that, I was like, wow, like that's kind of cool. A hair entrepreneur sat on the board of an asthma organization in the early 1970s. Why that's so interesting is because there is a bit of research coming out now about the health effects of like relaxers. And someone had sent me an article like last year about stylists who work in salons that perform relaxers had higher rates of asthma or something like that. So it's kind of like coming full circle, I don't know, 40 years later, but like from the other end. You know, initially it was a hair magnate who was contributing to, you know, asthma research, and now it's kind of stylists saying that asthma is in fact being caused by these hair products. So I don't know, I find that kind of stuff sort of interesting. I don't know if you find it interesting. You don't have to find it interesting, and my committee doesn't even have to find it interesting. They just have to pass me. They just have to pass me. That's all I want at this point. A couple of people have recently asked me, okay, like what are you gonna do with the PhD? And honestly, I wish I could say that I am going to enter into academia and be a professor and educate the next generation of scholars, but I probably won't, at least not right now. I'm pretty disillusioned with the career prospects of Black women in academia. I'm in a couple of like Facebook groups with women of color academics, and it just seems that like people be going through it, and not that there aren't struggles and challenges in every job, but I don't know why you would spend 6 to 8 years of your life giving to an institution and like then you're struggling to find a job after, and then your students aren't respecting you. In your department meetings, people are like throwing side comments at you and they're overstretching you because they want you to sit on every committee as a woman of color. So it's kind of just like a lot, like too much for me. So I am planning on not entering into the academic market. I'm not on the job market at all in any way, shape, or form. I'm hoping that I can use my degree in some way to benefit the world, but I just don't know if it will be centered on like my asthma research. I think that I've learned a lot of skills during my PhD. If anything, I have learned how to project manage like a boss. So I definitely feel like I will be able to use the skills that I learned both through my PhD but also through running my own business to do something afterwards. You'll have to stay tuned and keep on following along to see what it is that I do with the rest of my life. That's kind of like what's going on with my PhD. It's kind of where I am now. I am writing, sort of. I am doing a little research. I'm trying to stay focused. My cohort and I have an accountability group where we meet every week and talk about what we did over the past week. And if anyone has anything that they want someone to read, we kind of like look over it, which has definitely been helpful. And I've gotten probably more work done in the past 3 or so weeks that we've been doing that than I had all summer long. What happened with the summer? So that's definitely helpful. I would suggest that if you're in a PhD program, that having an accountability group and a writing group and a support group is definitely extremely valuable for your success. I talked a lot about mentorship on my channel and the importance of mentorship. It's not my strongest suit, and it's not my favorite thing about, it's actually my least favorite thing about my program, but I think there are alternate ways to be mentored, and being mentored by your peers is one way to do that. If you're not getting mentorship like from faculty members or from people in the field, you can still get mentorship and support from your peers and your colleagues, even your friends who aren't in academia. So that's what I would recommend. That's kind of like how I'm going through it. I think someone had randomly asked me like, would I ever like do another degree? And I think 2 years ago I would have said absolutely not. I'm playing around with the idea of doing an MBA, but I think I would like do it online. I can't sit in another classroom like ever again. It's entirely too much. But I do feel like an MBA is valuable, and I would love to learn more about business, like running a business. That's something that kind of interests me. I'm a, as a Niger girl, I'm just a hustler at the end of the day. So I'm kind of interested to see what I could possibly learn from that. Okay, in terms of how I plan to finish by May, it's now October. My goal is to finish the second chapter by the end of the month, and submit it to a couple people on my committee just to look over. Another chapter is kind of like already written. I just need to kind of copy paste sections of different papers and stuff. So I think that I can do that chapter by the end of December. And so I think if I finish the year off with 3 chapters, that should put me in decent shape. I'm cutting it close, but decent shape to have something to submit to my committee and like for a defense by May. That is the game plan. If I can submit something by May, then there's hope for me. Otherwise, I mean, people have kind of like walked in May and then actually defended in August, but I'm trying to be out of here. So that's like not really what I would prefer to do. But if worst comes to worst, I'll do that. But I'd rather just not. I'd rather just be gone with it all. And I want to have a really huge graduation party. When I first started, my mom was like already talking about my graduation party, and I was like, girl, ain't nobody having a graduation party. But now I need to have like a huge graduation party. I worked for this. Like, this is a big deal, and not everyone can do it. Not everyone can do a PhD, and I have somehow almost managed to do it. So I gotta celebrate. You gotta celebrate the small things. You have to celebrate your wins. You have to celebrate the things that no one else can do, will do, thought about doing. But yeah, that is kind of where I am now with my PhD. It is moving slowly, but it's moving. So pretty excited to be nearing the finish line. If you are in a PhD program, it gets better. Some things get better. It never gets easier, but it does get a bit better. You stop second guessing yourself as much. You reach a point where you no longer want to quit, like you just want to finish. So press on to that point. If you're struggling with funding, I know that's super tough. There are a bunch of like funding resources online. I often do get a lot of questions from students who are outside of the US who want to come to America for programs. I have no idea what that process is like. I went to school in the US. I went to undergrad. I did all my schooling here. So I have no idea what the process is like. But as always, if you're interested in a PhD program, the best course of action is for you to reach out to that program. Try to talk to the program administrator, try to talk to the head of studies in the program, and try to talk to a couple of students in each individual program. I do have a bunch of videos about how to apply to PhD programs. I need to make a couple of videos on how to survive PhD programs. I feel like I talked about, how to get in there, and people have reached out to me and said that they, found the tips helpful and they're now in a PhD program. So I should probably do a little series on how kind of the different coping strategies I've used to kind of make it and get through it So if you'd be interested in that sort of content, definitely let me know down below. So let me finish up undoing this hair and I'll say bye properly. So on a completely unrelated note, I've been thinking about kind of needing a signature hairstyle, because every time I want to post a picture that's like a throwback picture, but I want it to seem like it's today, that I took it like just now, my hair is completely different. So I feel like I need to just wear one hairstyle and stop switching up my hair so I can post pictures from February and you think it was taken yesterday. And I feel like this right here is a contender for like what should be my signature hairstyle. What do you think? I feel like this really could be like a signature look. A braid out done on a blowout, like with this color. I think this is it. I think this is it. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. I will see y'all next time. Bye.